Kristy, welcome to Climate Action Live. So the first question I'd like to ask you is, could you tell us about your journey and passion?
Yeah, so my name's Kristy Drutman, and I am the founder of Brown Girl Green, which is a multimedia series focused on teaching and educating people about environmental issues of our time. And I'm also the co-founder and co-CEO of the Green Jobs Board, which is a platform helping people around the world to start finding work in climate and social impact jobs. And I would say that my passion for working on these issues really came out of a desire to improve accessibility and inclusivity when it came to taking action on the climate crisis, and feeling like I myself didn't feel very well represented when it came to the mainstream media in talking about environmental issues, even though people of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color all around the world are on the front lines of the climate crisis. They are very rarely the ones who are being pushed forward in the narratives and the storytelling behind these issues. And that extends further when you are looking at more structural issues around who is working in environmental organizations and who is in leadership positions for those organizations and philanthropies. And so a big reason why I created the Green Jobs Board was an extension of my original work with Brown Girl Green, which at a baseline was about how do we increase representation of more BIPOC in the climate movement, to then talking about how do we actually get more diverse people from around the world to have access to career pathways and resources to make it a lot easier to make their life work about addressing the climate crisis. And, that comes down to thinking about accessibility barriers, about the narratives we're telling ourselves about how different communities and cultures are relating to the social and environmental issues of our time. And I just felt really passionate about working at those intersections because I had an expertise in climate and environmental policy, and then had such a passion for storytelling and creativity to try to bridge this very big systemic gap, to start helping people connect the dots, whether that be seeing themselves represented in their communities when it came to talking about environmental issues, to actually finding a meaningful job that they might want to pursue, that they can see themselves in as well. So my work all works at these intersections of using media tools and education to really get people to see themselves in this work and want to do something more meaningful about it in the future.
So in relation to the climate crisis, how worried are you, and do you think we can turn this all around?
There's a lot of people who say these days that it's too late, but climate scientists and everyone around the world knows that it's not. Every 0.1 degree of warming matters. I think there is definitely a lot that we can still do in terms of getting people into industries for decarbonization, definitely getting people to build their lives and their careers, even if it wasn't originally sustainability or climate focused, to build those skills and to shift their industries and their companies and their organizations over to thinking about these things. Because the IPCC report indicated that every single sector needs to change. It's not just people who are the climate eco people in the world. It actually is every single sector. And that can be hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around, that every sector is going to be hit by the climate crisis, that every sector has a role to play in the different levers that could be leveraged to address this issue. And so I think it's really important that we exhaust more of those options and try to hold companies and organizations accountable to doing the work to address this very systemic issue, for sure.
So you founded Brown Girl Green. Could you tell us about the organization and how you use social media for good?
Yeah, so Brown Girl Green is a series of videos, podcasts, blogs, all focus on this intersection of talking about race, identity, politics, and the climate crisis. So I examine a wide range of environmental solutions, and I talk about, different perspectives related to that, especially through my own lens as a Jewish Filipina American environmentalist. I talk about my own relationship with struggling with, living more sustainably or understanding why the system is the way it is, because I wasn't necessarily exposed to understanding a lot of those issues from where I came from. And I realized that lack of education on my part didn't really inspire me to know that like acting or taking action on things like climate change mattered. But as I did receive that education and did realize how it was connected to my identities and the things that I valued and cared about, I realized that that must be other people's story as well. And that I wanted to be a conduit and a bridge builder to bring voice and education and raise awareness about these issues in a meaningful way to get people informed and excited about wanting to take action on this.
So I have to ask you, Kristy, what advice would you give to a young person who's wanting to become involved in climate activism?
I would say that the biggest thing I would recommend for someone who wants to get involved in climate activism is to make sure that you have a support system, that you're not just doing it alone. I think it's really important to join organizations and find people you can collaborate with, because this work can feel really isolating. It can be really intense on your mental health. So it's really important to connect with friends, connect with organizations that already exist either in your area or community to try to plug into, because a lot of them have a lot of resources but also need volunteers, need support. And so I think that's my biggest advice is don't try to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to start your own nonprofit to make a difference. You can plug in and try to support organizations that already exist, or figure out, if you are going to make your own initiative, figure out how you can collaborate with those organizations. I think that kind of mobilization and collaboration, we need a lot more of that.
So finally, if people would like to support you and want to find out more about what you're doing, how do they best do that?
Yeah, I would recommend people follow Brown Girl Green on social media. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, and then also follow the Green Jobs Board at Green Jobs Board. We're always posting climate jobs. Currently, a lot of them are based in the US, but eventually there's going to be a lot more all over the world one day. So make sure you follow along to that. And I would say lastly, check out the Brown Girl Green podcast. I just launched new episodes for this season covering issues from deep sea mining to talking about deforestation to talking about how to make a plant-based diet more accessible to your friends and family. So definitely subscribe to the podcast, Brown Girl Green.
Thank you so much, Kristy, for joining us, and good luck with the incredible work that you do.
Thank you.